car thieves caught red-handed, trucks twerking, or a crazy driver driving the wrong way in the middle of a traffic jam. Sit back and watch what happened on the road today. Any car driver, no matter how careful and meticulous, has run out of gas or failed to notice that one of his headlights was out of order. But to go completely off the rails and drag a burned-out boat across a highway without noticing is almost unbelievable. Yet this man behind the wheel of this black pickup did it, while at first he only wanted to move his boat from point A to point B. So he hooked it up to the back of his vehicle and started towing it on the highway. Except that, as it seems, the boat never arrived at its destination. Indeed, during its journey, for a reason that is unknown to us, the boat suddenly caught fire, and for another reason that is also unknown to us, the driver did not look once in his rearview mirror. Otherwise, he would have noticed that his boat was almost consumed by fire, and he would have necessarily stopped to extinguish the ball of flame he was towing. However, with the number of cars that seem to use this road, another driver probably ended up alerting our poor pickup driver. It remains to be seen if he was able to recover anything from his boat. In any case, I doubt it very much. Being stopped at a red light is normally synonymous with deadly boredom, but there must be exceptions. As for this person, who probably couldn't wait for the light to turn green so that she could finally go on her way and attend her concerns. But as you can see, and contrary to all expectations, she got a funny show where she didn't expect it at all, as the two pickups in front of her started to twerk her. Sure, this mechanical choreography lacked grace, sensuality, and synchronization, but it at least brightened up our driver's day and turned a moment of boredom into a moment of entertainment. And our driver, who wanted the light to turn green as soon as possible, was now sad that the traffic light did not stay red any longer. However, as he knew that all good things must come to an end, he didn't hesitate to film the unusual twerk show he was lucky enough to witness, and because he is generous, he posted it on the internet to share this moment of entertainment with as many people as possible. When you're at your worst, you tend to look for safety, and nothing is more comforting than being among your own in your own sweet home. That's exactly what a West Palm Beach, Florida resident tried to do last November. After a nightmarish day that ended with his beloved car's tire being shredded to the point where it could barely hold on to the rim, all he could think about was getting back home at all costs. And he paid a lot of money that day to get home, since he had to brave the ridicule and continue driving his car, which was almost limping because its rear tire was not in good shape. So it was after an hour of driving, instead of the usual few minutes, that he finally arrived at his sweet home. There, he locked himself up, stuffed himself with sweets, and lamented his fate before deciding that it was time to regain some optimism and hope that tomorrow would be better. How annoying and sometimes even frustrating it is to find yourself trapped in the middle of a traffic jam on a one-way street with no way out, especially when you are in a hurry. For you, me, and anyone with a little common sense, there is only one weapon to get out of such a situation: patience, if not teleportation superpowers. But apparently, this world is not only made of sensible people, but there are also people like the crazy driver who made these pictures, who instead of doing like everyone else and waiting for the road to clear, to finally free himself from the traffic jam, didn't hesitate to put himself and hundreds of motorists in danger by driving against the direction of travel and weaving in and out of cars like a gamer on GTA. Of course, everything went well for him this time, and he was able to get out of the traffic jam fairly quickly thanks to his perilous maneuver. But by doing so, he not only committed several offenses, but could have caused an accident with serious consequences for everyone. And to top it off, the driver was so proud of his accomplishment that he even posted the video he filmed on the internet. Let's hope that these images were seen by the police and that the recklessness of this dangerous driver was heavily punished. On the road, it only takes a momentary lapse of concentration for even the most experienced drivers to have accidents. Fortunately, most of the time, these are just minor fender benders without casualties that are settled between the drivers and their insurance companies in a civilized manner. However, as you must know, it takes all kinds to make a world, and when faced with fairly innocuous situations, some people literally lose control and their primary instincts take over, like what happened on the M62 freeway on the outskirts of Manchester in 2016, when a small collision between a truck and a van brought out the worst in this man in neon yellow overalls. Indeed, after the collision of the two vehicles, the two drivers parked on the hard shoulder of the freeway, as is customary, came out to see the damage to their vehicles and find a settlement. But apparently, the exchange between the driver of the van and the two men in the orange did not go down well, and he came to blows, before rushing into his van to reverse into the truck. At this point, you might think that this reaction is very exaggerated, but the worst is yet to come. As you can see, our crazy driver picked up a shovel, and in a mad rage, he used it to break the window of the truck while the two men were inside and then fled. This naturally put an end to any prospect of an amicable settlement between the two drivers and led this violent man behind bars for dangerous driving, criminal damage, and assault. A stay in jail where he will certainly learn to better manage his anger next time. Although the reaction of the angry driver of the M62 is excessive and inexcusable, it is no less unjustifiable, unlike this man on a scooter, whose only motive is destruction, chaos, and malice. Because for no good reason, he will attack dozens of strangers, and armed with a kind of machete and fed with an unparalleled wickedness, he is going to sow chaos and panic on his way by destroying the mirrors of all the cars that have the misfortune to meet him. Unfortunately, I don't know the outcome of this story, but for sure, in the face of such gratuitous cruelty, this man will inevitably end up badly. And if it is not the authorities who will take care of it, it will be karma that will give justice to all his poor victims. After such a show of nastiness on the road, let's leave room for a little levity with this funny sequence, whose hero is a certain Christoph Schmid, a hotelier from Obertern, Austria. In January 2019, after a long day of work, he was eager to get home, but the heavy snowstorm that his town had experienced in the previous hours put him in an unusual situation. His car, which was parked outside, was buried under a huge pile of snow. And even though Christoph was able to make his way to the car, when he left his parking space, he took his almost 2-meter-high pile of snow with him, which gave life to this unusual and very funny sequence, which did not fail to give our hotelier and the few passers-by who witnessed it a good laugh. And since all's well that ends well, it didn't take more than a few shovelfuls for the mound of snow to give way and for Christoph to be able to return home. Although this inconvenience delayed the long-awaited return home of our hotelier, it did allow him to finish his day in style. Like the phoenix that rises from its ashes, sometimes the terrible trials bring out the best in us. That's exactly what happened to the people of Abbotsford, British Columbia, when they were faced with the terrible floods that hit them last November. The main pumping station, which normally prevents the Fraser River from flowing into the town, failed and residents were ordered to evacuate. But in this region where cattle breeding is the main activity, the inhabitants did not accept to leave behind them thousands of cows and calves exposed to certain death. It is thus in an impulse of solidarity and ingenuity that the inhabitants of Abbotsford put their hands together and faced this catastrophe. And as you can see, and as unusual as it may seem, it is with the help of jet skis and boats that they walked the submerged streets of their city to tow the cattle to the mainland. The disaster nearly destroyed the town of Abbotsford, but the bonds of solidarity that the residents forged in the face of it are now indestructible. Making a decision in haste is never a good idea. The proof is in the driver of this huge semi-trailer of the USA Truck Transport Company who, wanting to go too fast, took shortcuts that he did not know and thus found himself blocked in a small road with a very low bridge, which does not allow the passage of large vehicles. And as this driver is probably adept at making bad decisions in a hurry, instead of taking the time to think about the simplest solution to get out of this situation, which is none other than reversing, he got it into his head that he could turn around without taking into account the width of the road or the dimensions of his truck. And he who wanted to go fast, with his disastrous maneuver, he was not only delayed, but also caused a lot of damage to his truck and surely ended up unemployed. Which in itself is not such bad news, because if you think about it, being a semi-truck driver is not his vocation at all. Except for Robin Hood, being a thief is far from being an honorable profession. Still, unfortunately, some thugs make a career out of stealing. And as in any professional activity, there are talented people and others are not. This is precisely the case of these two men in dark clothes who wanted to steal this magnificent black SUV, but who fell on the worst target a thief can have. Indeed, the driver of the vehicle is an off-duty police officer who, moreover, is armed all the time. By breaking into this BMW, which seemed at first glance to the two thieves as bread and butter, they threw themselves into the lion's den, and in no time at all, the police officer drew his weapon, stealthily got out of his vehicle, took cover behind this white Jeep, and launched the hostilities with gunfire. Caught in the trap, the two robbers were forced out of the vehicle and fled while returning fire with firearms. At the moment, we don't know if the two thieves have been apprehended, but I imagine that this failed robbery, immortalized by camera, was enough for them to think about changing their career because they are not at all talented. These were 10 unusual situations that took place on the road. Tell us in the comments which one surprised you the most. And if you like this video, don't forget to put a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all the notifications and not miss anything of our next contents.